We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagurski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday's Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.
I blame Michael Jordan for Truly the GOATs, or more precisely, for the constant mad rush to stick greatest of all time labels to every sports team, season, player, and game. Jordan wasn't the first to be called greatest of all time. We've already seen on Truly the GOATs that Jim Thorpe, Babe Didrikson were each acknowledged as such 30 years or more before Jordan was born. But Michael Jordan's career with the Chicago Bulls and his run with the Dream Team at the 1992 Olympics created in North American sports fandom a seemingly insatiable need for the next great, and especially the next GOAT. After all, Michael Jordan was basketball history in the making, and sports writers were forced to contextualize his achievements against the all-time greats. Yeah, sure, the 80s saw the rebirth, well, the birth, really, of the modern National Basketball Association, thanks in no small part to the league's innovative new commissioner, David Stern, and two superstars named Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. But that was the thing about Bird and Johnson. While the writers and fans recalled the historically significant days of Russell and Cousy, of Wilt and West, Bird and Magic kept the hype and hyperbole relatively in check by dint of each other's presence. Not Michael Jordan. By the 1990s, Jordan had no equal. As Magic Johnson said in his induction speech for the Dream Team,
and I remember Michael Jordan sitting there telling us, remember this? We were sitting there, and he took a puff of his cigar, and he said, Larry and Magic, you had your run, but there's a new sheriff in town.
This sheriff did not necessarily wear a white hat, though. Instead, lawman Michael Jordan left a path of destruction, shutting windows of opportunity for opposing teams and players seemingly single-handedly. After ending the championship run of the bad boy Detroit Pistons, Jordan's Chicago Bulls stifled Brad Dougherty's Cleveland Cavaliers, repeatedly beat up Patrick Ewing and the New York Knicks, ended championship hopes for Clyde Drexler's Portland Trail Blazers, Peyton and Kemp's Seattle Supersonics, Charles Barkley's Phoenix Suns, and Stockton and Malone's Utah Jazz twice. Jordan and his Bulls beat everyone. He beat 6 of his Dream Team teammates in the playoffs or finals, won 6 NBA championships, and 5 league MVP awards. One main reason why Jordan was called the greatest ever to play the game by 1993 is that he had no rival. Or rather, he was so much better than the various second bests of his era that he habitually pushed them aside. The only comparisons to Jordan possible were to be made in the past, to similar greats like Bird and Magic, Dr. J and Oscar Robertson, and later he'd be compared to the greats he'd spawned stylistically, like Kobe and LeBron. By the time he finally retired for good in 2003, Jordan was number 1 in points per regular season game. In fact, he and Wilt Chamberlain are the only players with more than 30 per game over an entire career. He also retired at number 1 in points per All-Star game and points per playoff game. He was number 2 in points per NBA championship game. Nearly 17 years later, he still holds all those spots. But those who saw Michael Jordan play only need the stats as backup in asserting his GOATness. Never in an athlete were the intangibles so tangible. The willpower, the essentially sociopathic desire to win and to win decisively, the quote-unquote athleticism, it all added up to 6 NBA title wins against 0 losses. And then there was the ultimate intangible, the almost mystical, fantastical qualities. Jordan defied physics with metaphysics. After he went for 63 against the Boston Celtics, Larry Bird said unequivocally,
"Performance, I've never seen it before, and I had never seen it after. That wasn't Michael Jordan out there. It was God disguised as Michael Jordan."
In the novelization of Hoop Dreams, Ben Joravsky described the shot, MJ's buzzer beater to vanquish the Cavaliers from the playoffs with. Jordan caught it, dribbled toward the basket, and jumped. Elo jumped with him, but unlike Jordan, Elo couldn't hang in the air.
The Bulls win! They win! Set the Cleveland Cavaliers!
I Believe I Can Fly goes the song from the soundtrack of Michael's blockbuster half-cartoon science fiction comedy Space Jam. Certainly no one was inspired to believe they could fly based on that song, but those who saw Michael Jordan play damn near believed he could. For those of us who saw him play, Jordan was the best kind of sports legend. The legend whose story plays out in real time, with no need for exaggeration or speculation, with no question of a challenge to superiority. For us, Michael Jordan is basketball's GOAT.
My name is Oz Davis, and this is Truly the GOATs, sports history as told through its superstars.
We hadn't planned on producing episodes of Truly the GOATs focusing on 20th century single sport superstars this early into the run of the show, but the COVID-19 crisis of 2020 has thrown schedules into disarray everywhere, and a couple of regularly scheduled episodes have been shifted to the back burner. But if there's a silver lining to the coronavirus pandemic, the concomitant cancellation of games in major sports leagues around the world and stay-at-home orders, it is the captive, sports-starved audience that ESPN has won for its mini-series on Michael Jordan and those 1990 Chicago Bulls teams, The Last Dance. A whole new audience of millennials too young to remember the 90s is finally getting to see this legend win championships for teams other than the Toon Squad. Perhaps until this mini-series, anyone under 40 is hardly aware of Jordan the GOAT as more than a legend us now old guys rhapsodize about. Joining me for this episode of Truly the GOATs is David Hein. Dave is a sports journalist based in Germany specializing in international basketball. He covers the Basketball Champions League, the EuroLeague and Euro Cup, and writes for Germany's Basketball Bundesliga. He's also co-host of the official BCL podcast Coast to Coast. And way back in 2012, Dave and I started producing the Taking the Charge podcast, one of the very first podcasts on European and international basketball. But more importantly, for the purposes of Truly the GOATs, is the secret origin of the bilingual sports journo now known as David Hein. See, Dave grew up in Chicago. As a young sports fan, he got to see up close and personal the winning, ugly White Sox in 1983, the awesome if snake bit 1984 Cubs, and those incredible 1985 Bears, all before the world sports landscape changed with the arrival of Michael Jordan to the Bulls, Chicago's afterthought of an NBA team. Since Dave and I used to do reviews of movies and documentaries on Taking the Charge, not to mention that Germany's sports leagues also remain on shutdown, I figured he'd be the guy to talk to about the legacy of Michael Jordan, The Last Dance through 6 episodes, and just how old all this reminiscing about those Bulls makes him feel. So, David Hein, welcome to this special edition of Truly the GOATs.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. It's looking forward to it.
Yeah, long time no co-host.
You're the host. You're the host. I guess this time I'm just the guest, which is also nice.
Well, it would be remiss of me not to do the zeitgeist thing and ask, as you are now you're still in the quarantine situation in Germany, or what's the situation in Germany with the COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, Germany's, I think the best thing that happened to Germany, and also in a way, I'll try to keep it brief, but also the bad thing, but the best thing was that Italy happened first. And so all the Germans saw all of these horrific images coming out of Italy, and said, we can't have this. And so even before, Germany said, social distance, don't go out of your house, even before they really said, you can't do this, they were already getting scared. And so, numbers were really good, and so it was the point where businesses were obviously having problems and everything like that, and numbers were under control. The deaths were really low. They're still only at this point, I think they might top 7,000 today. So it's been really good. I know that's absolutely insanely crazy just to say less than 7,000 people dead is a good thing, but that's really the time in the civilization that we're at right now. But so you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what do you open? And Germany is a federalistic society where the states have their own powers, and and the German government really can't force anybody, and so they can make recommendations, but all the states kind of acted a little bit differently as far as opening up society to certain degrees. And then so you had different states saying, well, how could you do this? And, all these regulations. So blah, blah, blah. This is now 2 weeks, and the numbers are still good, but this is actually, as of time recording, is actually 2 weeks from the opening. And actually today the hair salons are finally open. So it's so funny. I have short hair, so it doesn't matter to me, but everybody's like, yeah, I can't wait for, it's mentioned all the time that hair salons are still closed and stuff like that. And, so as of today, hair salons in Germany can open up as well. There's some schools, no kindergartens. The playgrounds have been closed. Those are going to open up soon. So to finish off the probably too long story, but the next couple of days are going to be really, really, really important to find out what the opening of society means to the numbers. And if we see a spike in numbers, and now all the business and all the industries are pushing the government more and more and more, we need to open up more and more and more because the numbers are still good. And so, but if the numbers start to rocket, which all of the virologists and epidemiologists and all those people, all the scientists believe will happen or fear will happen, if that spike does happen, then everything that Germany did correctly and efficiently goes down the drain. And so that's where we're at right now. So as of the time of this release, look and see what Germany's happening, because, this week is going to be super crucial for Germany. And I fear that the numbers are going to go up. I have absolutely zero knowledge of this, but I spend way too much time watching political discussions late at night. There's no sports to watch.
Say. Gee, nobody in the States is doing that, Dave, I got to say.
And way too much time, and so I fear it, and I hope that my fears are not confirmed, and I hope that all of the social distancing. So also, this is the second week. This is the last point on this. This is the second week that everybody is required to wear masks nationwide, required to wear facial coverings in stores and on public transportation. So that's the situation in Germany.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, stay safe, stay inside, watch a lot of ESPN, which is what we'll be talking right now. Let's talk some Michael Jordan. Let's talk some GOATness. Let's talk some ESPN docuseries, The Last Dance. I want to go back. Let's go back way back to the beginning, Dave, like they do in the documentary. Let's flash back. And I'd like to ask you first, what was it like for you in Chicago to be growing up, basically, with this once in a lifetime force playing for the home team?
That's a lot there. So I'm from Chicago, right outside suburbs. I could see the Sears Tower crossing the railroad tracks. And I was a lifelong Chicago sports fan. Anybody who knows me from anywhere knows that I'm a very passionate Cubs fan. But so Jordan won the NCAA title, I believe, 82, if I'm not mistaken. And I was born in 74, so I was 8, and that was just a little too early for me. I was slowly after that is when I started to get into college basketball, and I was a big college basketball fan, but that was just before. But you look at the early 80s in Chicago, 83, you had the White Sox, they went to ALCS. They had the Cy Young winner. They had Tony La Russa as a manager, Carlton Fisk, Kittle. This was winning ugly. And so the city embraced them. 84, the Cubs, they were one win from the World Series. Sandberg was the MVP. Sutcliffe came over in the trade and was the Cy Young. And then you also had the Bears, and this is really shortly mentioned at the beginning. And then you had the Bears. The Bears lost in the championship game in 84-85 season, which was Jordan's first season. And then they won the Super Bowl the next year, which with probably one of the most dominant teams in NFL history. So sports in Chicago was really big. The Bulls weren't. I did watch the Bulls. I mean, we talked before, and I remember Orlando Woolridge on the Bulls. I remember Reggie Theus and Quentin Daly, Artis Gilmore, a little too, not as much, but like those three. But obviously, this was and this is also brought up in the beginning. It wasn't, the Bulls wasn't a big ticket at all. And then you have this whirlwind force of amazement. I wasn't into international basketball then, so I didn't really realize the USA, the gold medal team that he won at the '84 Olympics. So that wasn't on my radar at all at that time. I didn't really follow international basketball at all, and that was before the Dream Team. So, even international basketball wasn't big in USA. In the Americans' sort of consciousness.
Well, we took it for granted. You have the game in '72, and
which is eventually why the Dream Team came,
right.
Because you had all these other teams beating the Americans. So, but I mean, Jordan, I mean, you had to watch it. I mean, he was the most exciting player, and I mean, I watched a little bit of the others. I mean, I'm a much bigger baseball fan than basketball. And anybody who knows me knows that. But I love basketball. I love the drama of basketball. But you just saw this figure. You had the Jordans, you had the commercials, you had everything. This was just and this was charismatic guy. This the thrillingness of it, and just the poetry and air and everything like that. You had the Air Jordans, the nickname, all this other stuff, and so yeah, I mean, you couldn't help but be excited about this team.
One of the things we like to talk about with regard to David Stern and that assemblage of the Dream Team is that this was the big step in internationalization of NBA basketball specifically. And of course, the precursor to this is the entrance in the league of Marcellinus and Sabonis and Drazen Petrovic and guys like this. But you're in the trenches there in Europe, so to speak. This far down the line, what can you point to and say this is the influence of Jordan and the Bulls and the Dream Team on European basketball?
I don't know necessarily if it's Jordan in particular. I mean, just the Dream Team. This was the best team that's ever been assembled. These were rock stars, and the world had a chance to see them. And that was kind of I think probably one of the almost most surreal images. I don't even know what I'd feel like if I actually saw this, where there's Jordan in Barcelona and there's the huge picture of him, the Nike advertising of him. He's walking down the street and he looks up and there's this, this absolutely huge banner of him. These were, absolute superstars. I don't remember what documentary it was, but there was the one where Stockton was almost a nobody. If you look at
I was
him,
just going to bring that up. They're rock stars except for Stockton. Yeah,
Stockton walking around as because he was shorter too. He could just walk around and I think that was probably for him was amazing because he could just, he had a front row seat for all of this, because he was actually, this legend, but nobody knew him, nobody recognized him. You had this, and if I'm not mistaken, this was actually a couple of years after Barkley said, I'm not a role model too, right? And so Barkley was this huge figure. You had Magic, and you had all these absolute legends and stuff like that, but I think it was the collection of all that, just that team that inspired so many people. And even you think, the Angolan who goes and gets a signature of Barkley, either before, maybe even before, but definitely after the game at the Olympics, and they were just such an amazing collection of players, and just the exposure of the Olympics. You had everybody watched the Olympics, and so people were able to see, this is what basketball, what unbelievable basketball can be, and so I think it just inspired so many more people. And then you had the storylines of the Olympics as well. You had Croatia, having just gone through their civil war. You had Lithuania, and their fight and stuff like that. So you had all these extra stories along with it, and so I think it just the amazingness of all of those players collectively. Obviously, Jordan was the best already at that time. He had already conquered the Pistons, had already conquered the Lakers, and he was obviously the superstar. But just the collectiveness of it, and it just proved as an unbelievable inspiration to so many people around the world.
Yeah, I would even say one of the underrated stories about the Dream Team, especially in America, is just the '92 tournament in general, because again, you had the Croatia in there, you had the Lithuanian team in there, and both of these teams have also inspired documentaries and whatnot. And the story behind the Lithuanian team is fantastic. The other Dream Team.
The other Dream Team. Yeah.
If you can find this documentary, this is one of my favorite basketball documentaries ever. There's a nice trilogy. If you take the documentary that Dave referred to before, I believe is just called The Dream Team. It was produced by ESPN, and I believe that was 2012, I want to say, 20th anniversary. It might have been 2017, 25th anniversary. But with the story of Stockton getting off the bus and everybody else being jealous of that he can do that. He can just blend into the crowd, unlike the rest of them. That plus Once Brothers, which was part of ESPN 30 for 30, and the other Dream Team, killer trilogy. Yeah. I've been doing some podcasts on pandemic viewing, stuff you can binge watch, stuff that you can kill a whole day with. There you go. Watch that trilogy. You can see three of the most interesting basketball teams of all time, let's say. Of course, in the case of the Dream Team, probably the greatest sports team ever assembled. But we're going to talk about GOATness in just a little bit. Dave, the reason why I brought you here, let's get to it. What's your review on The Last Dance so far? You've seen the first 6 episodes?
I've seen the first 6. I think, and this might rub some people the wrong way. Whatever. There's almost too much Jordan. So much is known about Jordan, and I know that Jordan also kind of had to sign off on this, and there's all this, whatever quote politics that went along with him actually finally signing off and all this other stuff. But, I almost wish that they would go, like I said, there's so much known about Jordan, and it's so easy to go find stuff about Jordan that I almost wish you could go and that they would go a little bit more into some of these other guys and present those stories, that were so much a part of that. I just finished 6 today, the day of the recording, and then I remembered that ESPN, I don't think it was a 30 for 30, but I remember the ESPN did a piece on the guy who was in charge of following Rodman in Las Vegas, and I went back, and actually I see that there was a 30 for 30 on Rodman, for better or worse. And actually I was just watching it just before we went on recording this, because he's such an amazing personality. It would be great to see more about that. So if you're interested in finding out more about Rodman, go to ESPN. That's a 30 for 30. I think it's called For Better for Worse. It's on Rodman. But Pippen, talk a little bit more about Pippen and his background and stuff like that. Again, like I said, there's so much, and it's interesting about Jordan and all that, and it's nice as a longtime Bulls follower, not necessarily a fan, but a follower. it's cool to see some of those, things again. Kukoc, for example, I mean, why don't you mention that he's one of the top players in European history? He was on that three-peat team, with Split. There's no mention of that. There's no mention of that at all. So a little bit of Jordan, for example. Okay, spoiler alert. Although I guess I don't know if everybody's seen it now, but like, does the politic thing have to be in there with Jordan and his thing with Gant, the politician there? Okay, to me that kind of felt like a checklist. All right, quote, Republicans buy shoes too. Check. The access was fantastic. The interview is great. Obviously it's wonderful seeing all the action. Some of the old footage when you go back and maybe they couldn't find any. Maybe they didn't go back and want to get the images of Kukoc, whatever. But so some of this. It's great, seeing how dominant Jordan was. Pippen, especially, go a little bit more into Pippen. For every 2 stories of Jordan, do one of Pippen. Extra stories, extra segments. Do one on Pippen. Because Pippen, people can say Jordan haters, however many there are, if there are any. Jordan haters can say, Jordan never won a title without Pippen, and so again, anytime, it's a great time to have it come out because there's no sports. So it's a great time to come out. I think even if this had run, I think it was planned to go in the NBA finals, it still would have got great numbers. But from a filmmaking aspect, I think actual documentary making standpoint, I think you could probably say a little bit better on this. So I mean, you're kind of the film guy. What do you think? What did you think?
Well, yeah, but it's supposed to be a series, right? So it's out of my purview now. No, I was just going to say, yeah, you're kind of hitting on my take on this too, which is, okay, the problem is that they're having to reverse engineer everything. So in other words, okay, if they had gotten interviews with Luke Longley, there's no way Bill Wennington gets as much time as he did. Okay? If Steve Kerr is not widely known as the coach of the Golden State Warriors, he doesn't get the time that he does. The thing is, they even show this during the documentary. Paxson hits the game winner on at least 2 clutch games. He hits the game winner on the 82nd game against the Pacers when they win and they're in the playoffs to meet the Celtics, and then he ends the series that one year with a game winner. What's Kerr doing?
Yeah.
Kerr is coming off the bench in the second quarter as like the 8th or 9th guy, and he's hitting a couple of threes. And I mean, he's a valuable part of that team, but geez, Longley started, Kukoc, they were willing to blow up the team to get this guy. And like I always say, by the time they're winning that 5th and 6th championship, Kukoc is the best player from Croatia, which is one of the top, 3 or 4 basketball playing countries in the world?
Well, you can argue he was the best player in Europe.
Yeah, that time, yeah.
He was the EuroLeague MVP of that Jugoplastica split that won the 3 championships in a row.
Right, KK split.
I mean, everybody went crazy about Doncic, and he won the EuroLeague. Kukoc did it 3 times in a row,
And I don't believe there's been a 3-peat in EuroLeague since.
There hasn't been one since. No, there hasn't been one since.
That was a big deal. That was a very big deal. Yeah, he was the best player in Europe.
Look, I think it's great, and I think it's great that you have the dynamic of at the Olympics, hey, Jordan, saying, or whoever was Jordan, or I think it was Jordan, but saying, hey, you don't touch Kukoc, let me and Pippen and Scotty have him. That's great. But especially since you get an interview, if you have the interview with him, show who this guy is, who like you mentioned, they're really blowing this, they're really in danger of blowing this thing up with Pippen and all this other stuff. And tell everybody who this guy actually was. They said Krause was going over there and watching him and really liked him, but tell him why.
Exactly. We have no idea why they were willing to make such a gamble on Toni Kukoc. And that's one of the weaknesses of this thing. Yeah, now I hadn't heard about, of course I can imagine that, Jordan is demanding I get 50% of screen time. I get final say on, you get to come back to me if somebody says something about me, like Isaiah, for example. I'm sure that's in there. And the problem, of course, is they have to reverse engineer it this way. And the real problem with doing it like this, sort of this reality TV version, is that, and I wanted to discuss this one with you, is, Dave, do you feel old? Because I feel like this documentary has almost nothing new. Has a little bit of that sideline stuff because they had a crew following Michael Jordan for a possible documentary that was never made. So now, as I understand it, ESPN is just like kifing some of that stuff from that cut and using it in here. So when they're talking about Kobe in episode 5 at the All-Star game, this is one of those moments. Okay, that's brand new. Nobody's ever seen that stuff before. Okay, fine. But the great majority of this stuff, Dave, I feel like is for the millennials. It's for the LeBron generation. And I almost feel like this is a documentary not for us.
I was watching the 63-point triple overtime game live on my, what is that? It's like 8-inch by 8-inch black and white parents' TV in the kitchen because my parents were watching something in the living room, and I don't know. Does that make me old? You have a certain nostalgia value for the fans, but again, okay, so. Yes, I agree that that there's definitely a large, major element of hey, you guys all think this guy's the greatest, LeBron or anybody else, Kobe, even have Kobe saying, I wouldn't have anything, I wouldn't have my rings if it wasn't for Jordan, but this is Jordan, and so I think there's a lot of that in this, which kind of makes me wonder why it took Jordan, if he did have to sign off, as widely reported, why it took him so long to sign off on it. Okay, he looks, I guess, here in time, here and there, maybe it looks a little bit bad, but there's always this, it's pretty common knowledge that he wasn't, that he was a super motivated, super driven, super, athlete that pushed his teammates, didn't, if you didn't do something right, he's going to yell at you. This was all, and he was petty, that was from the Hall of Fame speech. All of that was more or less, I think, common knowledge. So anyhow, but I agree. I think it is. And if I'm not mistaken, somewhere I saw, I think that it was signed off the day that the Cavaliers won the NBA championship.
Nice. That's perfect. That should be in part 10. If that's not in episode 10, I'll be disappointed.
That day is the day the day LeBron won in Cleveland was supposedly the day Jordan signed off on this.
That's amazing. That's Jordan-esque. That's fantastic. That needs to be in episode 10 of this series. If that's not in there, I'm going to be disappointed.
It is cool. And I tell you what, and to be honest, I think it for younger fans, this is right in my wheelhouse because I grew up with this team. I never saw them live. But I watched them on the TV all the time. Also colored TVs. I watched them all the time, and so it was cool. It was really cool seeing all these images. You would see a game. Just take, for example, their first championship. When Jordan goes up, he drives down the lane, he goes up, everybody thinks he's going to dunk with the right hand. He goes down, takes it up with his left.
Yeah, switches hands. Yeah.
After that game, me and my brother went out to our rim in our backyard and we're doing that.
Sure.
It's like inspiration. Exactly right after the game was over, 10 minutes later, we were outside doing that move, I think it's cool for the young people, just to kind of bring it back. I think it's great for the young people to have a chance and see this.
Well, I almost feel like the 90s Bulls are the sports version of cult TV. Like I'll sit there and I'll watch these old episodes of Star Trek over and over and over, like whenever they're on. And I feel like that's what this is like. Yeah, I know these highlights, but it's awesome to see them again. You're comfortable with them. You love them. They're punch the air moments,
And one of the things that this series kind of really hits home, and I realized it, but I was so close to it, I didn't like necessarily realize it. He was, and this is Jordan, okay, but he was an unbelievable rock star. I didn't realize that. Where was the one game? I think it was in episode 6. Was it Atlanta where they played in the Georgia Dome? Is that where they played it? Where is that? 60,000? I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. And then there was the one sequence of scenes where he's in the hotel, and then he comes down from his hotel room, and there's all the fans there, and in the arena, and then he and then it just you can't imagine how big of a star he was. And then also to the fact that you kind of can see how when you kind of had the end of that this all this popularity and all this you get physically and mentally drained. He talked about this after the first three-peat, you're so drained, and then he had his father get killed tragically, and there was obviously a great, this very close connection to him, and you can understand. You're like, I can't take this anymore. I don't need anything to prove. Nobody else, none of these other superstars did a three-peat, so screw y'all. I'm gonna just go play baseball, And he's based, yeah. So I mean, it's like I'm gonna go do what I want to do. I don't want to, I'm gonna go down to Sarasota, Florida, and I'm gonna go try to hit some curveballs. Fuck it, why not?
Okay, so I'll get you out of here quick, but this is truly the GOATs, and you may be biased, but I got to get a couple of.
Congrats on that. Yeah. So for people who have listened to it so far, keep listening because obviously doing a great job. So.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask you a couple of quick questions. Short answers first. Easy one. Is
Okay.
Michael Jordan the GOAT? Short answer. We'll do the longer one in a minute.
Greatest of all time. That's what GOAT means. Yes.
Are the 95-96 Chicago Bulls, who win 72-10 in the regular season, 87-13 overall, are they the GOAT single season NBA team?
Yeah, that I can't really as distinctively say. Look, I mean, the team, this last team, this 97, this 96-97 team, they were old, and you had like I think 4 or 5 30-plus guys, and it wasn't just the role players at the end of the bench. These were like big time dudes. Being big. Getting older and older. So, yeah, I mean, there were some really good teams, man, and even the first run. I mean, Grant
Sure.
was amazing.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Pippen was. You look back and you're like, damn, man, Pippen was so freaking good. So.
Well, the first team had Cartwright and Grant and Paxson.
Yeah.
And the second team had Kerr and Rodman and the three-headed monster.
I like Rodman. I like Rodman better than Grant. But I probably like Cartwright better than what the second trio had. So I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that one. Hey, they won the most games, but yeah. What do you think? You don't have to say if he's the GOAT yet, because it's yours, and you can save it for the end.
I would take the roundabout route here. I think that one of the impeti for truly the GOATs is to talk about. Let's have some perspective. Like when we say truly the GOAT, especially in something like NBA basketball, which, let's have a little perspective, hasn't been around for that long, has some very distinct eras. It has a lot of rule changes like NFL football from year to year. Right? It's not like baseball, which tends to stay in a bit of a vacuum with regard to the rules and the way the game is played and the major. I mean, 3 strikes and you're out is going to be around forever. Right. I mean, imagine introducing like a 5 balls rule, like the 3-point rule. in basketball, right? Just doesn't happen in a sport like baseball, right? So, but I wonder if when we answer this question, who is the GOAT in basketball, are we also answering another question like, what do we prefer out of our greats, right? Because, okay, basically, and Charles Barkley recently became a lot of clickbait because he named off his top 7 or 8 players. Now, look, basically, I think everybody that's seen enough NBA basketball can agree on the top 8, right? It's Kareem, Russell, Wilt, Jordan, Bird, and Magic, and then you've got Kobe in there, and you've got Oscar Robertson. That's pretty much your top 8, right? The only question is, like, how do you shuffle that? And how you shuffle that is based a lot on whether you actually saw them in real time. But it's also based on what do you like more? Do you like stats? Do you like championships? Do you like the guy that makes his teammates better? And if you're going by, it depends on what metric you're going by. Because you can make the case that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest NBA player of all
for sure.
time. He dominated the 70s. He was the best. He made the Lakers. Well, he remade the Lakers in the post, let's say, Mikan era.
He had
post Jerry West era.
He had the unstoppable shot.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah. That's it exactly.
Which blows my mind why people don't take that shot. It still blows my mind why people don't take that shot.
Well, I mean, Kareem's wingspan is ridiculous.
It doesn't have to be that much, man. That's a whole other discussion.
That's true. Well, Dave, yeah, I'll go down. Yeah, I'm going to say Jordan's the GOAT. I'm going to say the Bulls are that Bulls team is the greatest team of all time, and I'm saying this as a Lakers fan. But I think without dispute, the Dream Team is the greatest team ever assembled, I think, in any sport.
That without a doubt. One of the reasons why I really think that Jordan why I pick him, and so Bird and Magic, I only saw the end of that. I didn't see any of Wilt, and obviously none of Russell, but he and you even saw this in the draft. They're like, well, a guard, a wing, he's not going to dominate the game. Then you need big guys. I think it was Mark Eaton. They had Mark Eaton. Hey, this guy's not going to do nothing, right? So he changed the game. Kobe is, for as much as people love Kobe, and I know you love Kobe, but Kobe is a lot of Jordan. If there wasn't Jordan, there wouldn't be Kobe, because Kobe is almost Jordan 2.0. I don't want to make any people hate me on Kobe, but because Kobe was a fantastic player. But Jordan changed the game, and Jordan didn't do it just offensively. That's what you see a little bit on this in this as well, just how ferocious he was defensively as well. And he went through his growing pains of having to overcome the Pistons, he won 3 in a row. So if you go by rings, he's also right up there because he won 3 in a row, which not many people can say they did. Then he left the game. He left the game at the pinnacle. He had just three-peated, went to play baseball for whatever it was, 15 months, was away from the game, came back, and he didn't come back, and he was like 28. I think it was. So let's see. He was born in 63, came back. What was it? 94, 95. He came back. So he was like 30. He was like 32 already. He was already 32 when he came back. He won the last championship. And last championship, 63. This is great radio. 63. He was 35. He was 35 when he won the last championship. I don't know, when Bird, when Magic, and all those other guys won their championships, but he three-peated as the most dominant player, on his team and the league at 35, and still left the game, and came back. What did he have? 2 more years? Yeah, 2 more years. So what did he? Played 2 more years, and so 99, 2000, 2001. So he was away for 3 years before he came back to Washington. And still, dude, he averaged 23 points a game.
He was still a top 10 scorer
in 2001, 2000.
He's still top 10 in the league. Yeah.
And he was 6 for 6 in finals. And yeah, nobody ever beat him in the finals.
Nobody ever took him to Game 7, right? So you're demonstrating the fact that, championships are the key thing for you, the abstract winning thing. Because the same argument can be made for LeBron. Look, he's 35 right now. He's been playing the whole time. The longevity is sick.
And LeBron, yeah, and he came right out of high school. Jordan, he skipped only his junior year, his senior year, which also at that time was unheard of as well. You look at now, you say junior year is like, oh, that's nothing. But at that time, 84, that meant a lot, that he was leaving early. But I think when you take everything into account, he changed the game. He took it from a big man sport. And who won when they were gone?
Yeah,
the big man, Elijah
won. True. It's true. Yep, you're dead on. And who represented the East was Shaquille O'Neal's Magic.
Exactly. It was O'Neal, and it was O'Neal who beat him when he came back in March. When the MLB was on strike. It was because and they beat him to go to the playoffs in the 94-95. So. That's why there's the titles, and you say you change the game, and the longevity, and the fact that he's led the league in scoring and he's led the league in scoring and won the NBA title alone more times than any other player, than all of the players combined.
All right, David Hein, thanks very much for joining us on Truly the Goats. Enjoy episodes 7 through 10 of The Last Dance, and stay healthy, buddy.
Thank you, man. You too. Thanks for having me on, and keep up the fantastic work, and stay safe as well.
Truly the Goats is all about having perspective on the history of sports. But a force like Michael Jordan makes it nearly impossible. Bill Russell has more championship titles, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has more points, and LeBron James needs about 3 more seasons to pass Kareem in total points scored and minutes played. Maybe someday LeBron will get his own 10-part miniseries on ESPN. After all, in theory, he'll soon have his own Space Jam, right? But until then, this on-air greatest hits collection only reaffirms what my generation of basketball fans knows in their hearts. Michael Jordan is the GOAT. This has been Truly the Goats, an inclusive media production. We'd like to thank our guest, sports writer and podcaster David Hein. Extra materials, show notes, blog posts, and other related stuff on the greatest of all time are available on our website at trulythegoats.com. On Facebook and Twitter, find us at Truly the Goats. For more inclusive medium podcasts and video productions, visit us at inclusivemedium.com. I'm Oz Davis, thanking you for listening to the Truly the Goats podcast. Enjoy The Last Dance, and everybody, stay healthy.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings you sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.